I have had a fair few synths on this channel now. I've had the Dreadbox Erebus, I've had the Moog DFAM, I've had my Polybox, the MS-20 is featured kind of loosely. I wanted something that was a bit more modern, something that was a bit more flexible, something that I didn't have to worry about, and something that I could just use as an everyday synth on the channel. That was about 6 months ago, so I started doing some research and I started looking around, and what I ended up on was a Prophet Rev 2. So I started saving my pennies and started looking for a Prophet Rev 2. This was going rather swimmingly until about 2 weeks ago, where I found myself on the tube careening across London to pick up this. The Gamechanger Audio Motor Synth Mark 1. So this is the one that Gamechanger launched on Indiegogo a few years back. This is not the Mark II with the extra digital oscillator and the stereo output and a few other tricks. This is the Mark I. Normally, when I have a new synth on the channel, I try and write a little kind of demo song with it, but the second I fired up the Motor Synth Mark I, a whole song fell out of it. So in lieu of a demo track, here's like a minute snippet of my most recent release. I release music under the kind of moniker of Dead Hand, and this song is called The Malice in These Walls. Here is a link below. I apologise, by the way, just throughout this video you're going to hear kind of vague ambient noise that is coming from the motor synth itself. The drone motors do make noise, which is kind of awesome, but at the same time it's quite loud, and it does have a built-in fan, which you might actually even be able to hear at the moment, because it does make some noise. It is asleep at the moment, but that will change in a minute. The top panel of the motor synth is kind of simple depending on how deep you want to go. I kind of break it down into sections, so you've got kind of what I call the master section up here, which is where you've got stuff like your volume, cross mod and tuning for each of the voices. You've got kind of your screeny bit, scientific term, over here, where you can access the kind of digital interface controls for the synthesizer. You've got voice 1 and voice 2, so you've got two kind of oscillators, I guess. Really, not really, two voices, each with 4 different wave shapes. So you have got sine, saw, square, and a kind of electromagnetic pickup in there that actually picks up the electromagnetic disturbance from the motors, much in the same way that a guitar pickup would. Super, super cool. You've got your normal footages, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32 if you want to get real low. Independent amp envelopes that you can sync. I have them synced at the moment, which is why that red button will be flashing. It's doing its fancy light show at the moment because it's asleep, and that's just to keep the noise down so I can talk to you. You've got accelerator and brake, which is kind of glide portamento type thing. Tone, which is the overall kind of brightness in each voice. It's an interesting thing. I haven't seen that on any of the synths I reviewed before, so that's pretty cool. I use that quite a bit. It's nice. Independent filters. Well, I say independent filter. It's one filter, but you can control whether the voice goes through the filter or not. The filter is really cool. It's very polyboxy. As somebody lucky enough to have a polybox, my polybox is currently poorly, so this is giving me my much more reliable dose of polybox filter. It does a 12 dB low pass, 24 dB low pass, which admittedly is where it spends most of its time for me. I really like that. A band pass and a 12 dB high pass right there. You've got your usual filter cutoff, which you can key track. You've got resonance elements, a drive control, which is awesome. It's like having an O-drive pedal basically built into the synthesizer. As somebody who's a huge fan of distortion and saturation and stuff, huge fan of that. And you can control just how much of that filter envelope is actually being applied to the voices on there, which is really, really cool. Down here you have your modulation section. Again, fairly standard stuff. You can choose, first off, you can modulate either of the voices or the filter, and the filter, I should say, all three at once if you want to. In terms of the voices, you can modulate the pitch, or you've got this kind of like tremolo effect thing, which is really, really interesting. I use that quite a lot. Or you can do the cutoff frequency or the resonance, just there, all controlled by these lovely, very high quality feeling switches. You can also sync it to the tempo using the button down there. You can change the subdivision with which that linked tempo is kind of mapped, which is awesome. And you can control the wave shape down here with this lovely clicky knob that will take you through a whole different variety of modulation shapes with which to maim your sound. And then lastly, we have this whole bit down here, which up until recently, when I updated the firmware on it, didn't really do very much. The play surface of the Motor Synth is these 8 buttons down here. It has a tap tempo. It's got an alt button, which allows you to access alternate functions on here. It also has a super cool feature called clutch, which I'll show you in a second. I genuinely think it's genius. This also functions as a sequencer. There's a built-in arpeggiator. You can record ideas on here and then play them back, and it's genius. It's great. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get some sounds. I have actually programmed in a sequence, but before we play back the sequence, I'm just going to effectively turn it on and turn the volume up so you can see the difference in ambient noise just through my little voice mic here between it being asleep and it being very much awake. Not huge quite yet, but that's because I have it tuned quite low. We're going to go with a bass to start off with. You can hear the motors, hear things moving around. I have sequenced in a pattern on the sequencer right here. It shows you the notes on the sequencer. Let's play that back and we'll have a tweak. Right, so as you can see there, I'm controlling the amp envelope just by, you click through using the knob. You've got A, D, S and R, and then when that particular thing is highlighted, you can just turn it up and down. If I was playing live with this, I would imagine that would drive me absolutely insane. But just, in the studio using it like this, that's absolutely fine. No complaints. There, it's probably back to normal. You can control the tuning of the performance keys down here, the performance surface. At the moment, it's in C harmonic minor. So if I wanted to change that, then I absolutely can. I've got C, maybe I want to play in D blues pentatonic. Sick. Before we carry on, there is an output jack, there is an audio input jack if you want to feed things into the filter, etc. There is also a standard 3.5mm headphone jack on the back. I wish that was kind of the larger, bulkier size, but that's fine. There is also CV for the two voices on the back there, as well as a power button, your input, USB, which is for doing firmware updates, as I mentioned earlier, and MIDI as well. The first thing you notice about the Motor Synth is just how fat it sounds, and that fatness with a PH is consistent regardless of which waveform you choose to use. Incidentally, if you're wondering how you get a sine wave or a saw wave or a square wave out of a drone motor, you're not alone. So on top of the drone motors are these little spinning discs with patterns on them, and these patterns each represent a different waveform. So the way that the motor spins dictates your kind of speed, your pitch, as it were, and then infrared is used to read these different patterns off of these spinning discs, and that is what gives us our sine, saw, and square wave. Super clever. Let's make a big screechy lead to go with our bass line. Change that amp envelope, I think, aren't we? Bring some modulation in as well. So show you that tremor I was talking about. So you see now that I've brought down the modulation on voice 2, it's only affecting voice 1 there. I can modulate the resonance or the frequency on the filter. So if I bring the resonance down, for example, maybe that's how I want it. Got a big, thick, moving bass there. I can also modulate these things downward if I want to. So if I move it, for example, all the way up, it's going to add to resonance. If I move it all the way down, it's going to duck the resonance instead of spiking it like it would normally do. I can also do the same thing with the trem, for example. If I bring that all the way down, just on voice 1. It's just a bass machine, this thing. It just creates such texture and atmosphere and movement. You probably got loads of noise then, didn't you, when I scratched my beard? I'm so sorry. I can also, for example, modulate the frequency of the filters if I do that. Or I can modulate the pitch there, for example. I'm just going to take the filter out of the equation just for 1 second. Probably best used subtly, that pitch thing, but I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. I love everything about it. I love the tonality, I love how unique it is. I love the sound of the glide and like the portamento, because it's so organic because it's literally the acceleration or deceleration of these motors that are functioning as our oscillators. I love how easy to use and how intuitive the modulation section is. I love that even I can wrap my head around it. I love having a sequencer. I've never had a proper sequencer before. So literally just being able to press play and have it run is awesome. I will show you clutch just before I wrap this up, because it's really, really, really clever, and I did say that I thought it was genius, so I should probably demonstrate it at some point. Let's say you are playing live, and you want to see if I can reduce the noise a bit there, there we go. Let's say you're playing live, and you want to change a bunch of parameters on your synthesizer at once. So let's say... Okay, so that's my bass line. I'm playing live, I'm having a whale of a time, but I need to adjust a whole bunch of stuff at once. So what I would do is I would hold the tap button for tap rather than tap tempo, and then I can change. It will show me this clutch. Clutch opens up, which means now none of these knobs are going to change anything until I let go. So I can change the drive or bring the drive all the way down. I can move my filter cutoff. I can change my glide settings and put them back home. I can change my modulation settings and crank them all the way up, and then when I let go, it'll put it back. So I'm just going to give you a demonstration of that. I didn't want to talk over it and do it at the same time. So let's say this is our bass line. I don't know about you, but I think that's awesome, and I can totally see that having a really, really cool live application. And I can actually, I can really, really, I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before, which I think is really, really cool, and why I thought it was worth showing off. One last thing before we go. The second I heard that the M down here, that kind of electromagnet thing, functioned like a pickup, I thought, well, I wonder if it works with pedals. So naturally, I pulled out the plasma coil to test, and just, you know, scientific testing, just to see if it wails with the gnarliest distortion pedal I own. Yeah, it does, yeah. I absolutely love it. There's a real sense of life that comes from having those noisy motors and that fan going in the room with you, because they align, because they're your sound source, they align with everything that you're playing. So that it really feels like feedback from the synth. It really feels like it's giving back to you. It feels like it's breathing and it's alive, and it's just so much fun to use. I know I said that I was after a Prophet Rev 2, and I will probably save up my pennies again, start from scratch and see if I can find one. But I'm really glad that I went for the Motor Synth. Every time I see Gamechanger audio written on something, for me it means something new, something exciting, something interesting, something different, something inspiring, something that is going to make me want to sit down in my studio and make music. And that is invaluable. That's really, really cool. Also, just having something so different and so unique in today's world, where it feels like everything has been done a million times before, super cool. Love it. The Motor Synth is a unique synth. It sounds amazing. I really, really love it. It's not without its kind of idiosyncrasies. You know, the screen menu does leave some stuff to be desired sometimes. The interface, I can imagine, would get frustrating if you were using it live and you didn't really have your kind of workflow on the synth dialed in. I can see that being frustrating. But I mean, the Motor Synth Mark II is £2,500 to £3,000, and I got this for 800. And yes, I am losing the stereo out on the back. This is a mono output synth, and I am losing that extra digital oscillator that does lend some flexibility to the Mark II. But I'm also saving enough to buy a small second-hand hatchback. So overall, feeling pretty good about it, I think. For me, the Motor Synth inherently inspires music. There's a musicality to its gnarliness. There's inspiration in there. There's sounds in there that you won't find anywhere else. Could you recreate this in software? Maybe. But I mean, rather you than me, you're going to have a hell of a time doing it. There's some really unique, really fascinating stuff in here that I absolutely love. Would I pay £3 for a Mark II? No. But I've never had £3 in my hand to spend entirely on music stuff before, so that doesn't matter. What matters is that I have a Mark I, and if you can find a Mark I, yes, you are losing some features compared to the Mark II, as I say, but you're also saving a whole ton of money and getting access to something that does something entirely unique, and it is so special and it is so fun to use, and it's so inspiring that I would absolutely recommend checking it out if it is within your price bracket, if you are lucky enough to find one, and if you like that particular really crazy off-the-wall brand of aggressive, warbly drone motory greatness. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate you checking it out and really do appreciate you sticking around. Let me know what you thought of the Motor Synth in the comments below. There is a ton of stuff about the Motor Synth that I did not have time to cover, so I will probably cover that in other stuff, in other videos. So please do get subscribed, like, share, tell your friends, etc, etc, etc. I'm going to go and start the Oblivion remaster. It looks incredible. I'm so excited. I will see you next time.